Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Just got a quick video episode here going on about the Tennessee special election in Tennessee District 7. This was one that I believe is Mark Green vacated um, in the most recent term. The two candidates ended up being Matt Van Epps as well as Afton Bain. So just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that, just kind of give my opinions. And if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe. And then comment down below if you want me to do another video, if you got any suggestions or anything like that. So looking at the just the results that came in. A few things stood out to me. Obviously, you're going to hear this all over the news and everything like that, especially as digesting kind of the political commentary. Big takeaway is that, Matt Van Epps won by 53.9, or won with 53.9, and then Afton Baines won or lost with 47 percentage points of the vote. I did post on Twitter, so if you aren't following me on Twitter, go ahead and follow me. That way you can kind of stay up to date with some kind of topics like this, as well as some other ideas and things like that that I have coming up, and posts about just topics in general and kind of some thought-provoking ideas and what kind of is going on. So with this, I did predict that the Dems were going to lose by about 8 points. It looks to be about a 8.9 or something like that percent. So I like to give myself a thumbs up on that one. Another one where we kind of called it the right way. We did a video a while back about, kind of predictions of what's going to happen in 2027 as well as in the first term. Or the first half of Trump's second term. We're going to do a follow-up video with that here coming up, but we call a lot of this stuff. So, follow the channel, stay up to date, follow me on Twitter, those kind of things. That way you can kind of know what's going on and can get some good ideas of, what to expect with some of these races. So with Matt Van Epps winning by 8.9%, that's obviously great if you're a Republican. Josh, who's a good contributor to this channel, he does a lot. It was knocking these doors, and really did a lot of work to get Matt Van Epps elected. He did say it was a nail biter. I attended a presentation with Bill Haslam on Tuesday, where he talked a little bit about this race. He expected it to go about four, so I think everyone kind of was expecting it somewhere to be within those kind of single digit numbers. I know Breaking Points talked about how they, obviously want Afton Bain to win, and I think they were saying, 2 to 4 points or something like that. So we came in the closest of all the ones that I've heard. So once again, thumbs up to us and the team for doing that. But a few things that I kind of wanted to dig in here. I did post this on Twitter. One of the big things that I noticed is that Matt Van Epps, the Republican candidate, and Mark Green, essentially, they both won, but Mark Green won by, I think it was like a plus 21 district, and I think they typically kind of do that. So he's obviously been there for a while, and he has that kind of incumbency and everything like that. But you wouldn't see something swing this much in this kind of election. I believe the Democrats, let me pull it up real quick. I think they ended up not losing as many votes as the Republicans did. So the Republicans, yeah, let me see right here. So Republicans ended up getting 95,000 votes less than what they did in the 2024 cycle with Mark Green. Democrats, I think, only ended up losing about 41% or 41,000 votes compared to what they did in 2024. So it's very interesting to kind of see, really kind of where I'm thinking a lot of these margins that you're seeing are coming out is that the Republicans are winning or they're losing, but a lot of it is turnout. A lot of it is, they're not getting, voters out there. It is a off year election, so you're going to expect really low turnout. And I think that's why we see these margins. And so I think kind of the big narrative is, oh, everybody should be concerned about this. I would make the argument that if you go from a, Republican plus 21 district Now you're at you're winning by 8 percentage points. Maybe you're winning before, but I think it was like 16, 17 points in an off year election. I think you're going to see some reverting to the mean. So one thing that I highly recommend people to understand is that, you're going to see a lot of um, people talking about, oh, this is going to be indicative. There's going to be a landslide in the midterms, yada yada yada. I don't know if that's exactly it. Obviously, you've got the Trump not on the ballot. You've got not really having great candidates. I think Matt Vanapps was a military guy, so he might have been a little bit better than some of these other ones. I think you can see that there was definitely tons of money put into this race, and I just think overall, you're just not seeing it. I don't think that you're seeing, this huge landslide that you're going to see in the midterms. I would say this is about as good as it's going to get. Now, this is in R plus 20 something district. You go over to Tennessee second, that's, maybe I think like a plus 9, plus 11 district, now you need to be scared, right? So if that was happening, I would say this is definitely something that could, get flipped. However, I think that, you're just not going to see that in the actual general election in 2026. I would say that unless things got drastically worse, economy actually went into recession, maybe that there was a conflict, we went to war with Venezuela, yada yada yada. You might see maybe this get worse, or you might see results like this throughout. Um, People are saying, "Oh, there's going to be a Tea Party," all that kind of stuff. This is not the election that I would say could really give you that indicator of, okay, we're going to have this huge Tea Party wave. I looked at just kind of, and you can do this too. Just look at the Wikipedia um, Cook partisan numbers for basically all the congressional districts, right? And they'll rank them, from plus 40 to R plus 40, whatever it is. And if you kind of go into the middle, kind of go to the R plus fours, R plus fives, and those kind of races, those are the ones that I'd say are going to be I would be more concerned. If you have something that's even similar to this, I think we talked about Deborah Shingley up in Georgia. We talked about some of those other races. You know, maybe kind of like a 8 point swing. You say, okay, maybe you go half because it's a off year election. You're at kind of like a 4 point swing, 4 or 5 point swing. Those Midwest districts, especially those in Iowa, that's going to be one that I think is going to have major swings. I think there's two or three of those that are, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5 districts. There's a few in Colorado, Ohio, and then several in Michigan. Those are going to be the ones that I would say are really going to be the ones that would turn. I think this is a good indicator of kind of where the sentiment is in kind of both elections. Um, but you're really going to see kind of the tides turn. I would say closer to the spring and the summer and everything like that. So it's a good indicator, but obviously you can't really infer anything from that. One thing else that I would say is that Democrats are also really touting, hey, we're turning them out, we're doing great, we're doing all this other kind of stuff. But if you look at actually kind of the percentages here, I think Afton ended up doing much better in Davidson County. That's kind of Nashville and those areas. But if you look at kind of the partisan breakdowns for many of these counties, typical Republican, typical rural conservative districts. Republicans running it up 70 to 30 in these elections. Obviously, the ones that I was looking at, big one is Williamson County. That's kind of the very wealthy part of Nashville that a lot of people think about. It's kind of around Franklin, Brentwood area, so it's about south of that, about 30, 45 minutes south. It's kind of more on the excerpts. A lot of wealthy individuals there, strong Republican stronghold. Um, Though that's one that's concerning. Kind of seeing a dip into 61%. If that holds, you might see some shifts because this is where a lot of those voters who are coming out for the Republicans, as you can see here in some of these other ones, yeah, you're winning by 76 points, but you're also, only got 1,200 people showing up. So I can't remember where Montgomery is, but I think if you look at I thought there was maybe one more in here. Let me see. It might have been Montgomery County. I think that one's kind of around Clarksville. Let me see. Yep. So that's the one that's around Clarksville. So one of the big things about Clarksville is that Clarksville has a lot of military people. It's right there along the border. It's over by I forget I think it's Fort Campbell. Heavily tied into all that. So you definitely see a lot of those kind of people there. Obviously with it being kind of near close to a military base, as you see down in kind of Southwest Georgia in Columbus, Georgia. Usually those places kind of go a little bit more liberal, just as well as in Fort Bragg out in North Carolina. So that's an interesting one. Usually, that's kind of showing, hey, maybe you're kind of seeing a little bit kind of tip over. So those percentages do stay the same, if not get worse for Republicans. I think you could maybe start seeing some interesting trends kind of statewide. Um, yeah, so you know, I think the takeaway that I have, being someone who's more in the middle, being someone who, as of right now, probably spends more time in the Democratic politics, and that's why I talk on Twitter all the time about that. Someone who's spending a little bit more time on the Democratic side of politics, but is a conservative. I'm definitely looking at, hey, like, look, Afton Baines, she did very well, outperformed everybody. I think she's still going to be a state house, state senate person. But I think what it really showed to me is that, especially with these numbers, is that if Democrats could get another 5-10% in some of these, districts here, then I would really be concerned in the midterms. Additionally, I don't know if you're really even seeing, other than, kind of, Montgomery County, but, Williamson County, maybe just a little bit. I think that was maybe like a 3-point swing. You're not really seeing kind of you're not really seeing Democrats win voters, to kind of put it, at least in my opinion, lightly. They're not trying to win voters. It's kind of playing the same games that they always played. And so that's why I'm a little bit more bearish on the Democrats in 2026, all things being equal, is because you're not really getting those rural non-white voters. You're not really getting a lot of those people that used to be a strong foundation of your party. You're not getting them out to you. So I think I'd say kind of the big lesson and the big takeaway that I'm definitely going to be watching is that if Democrats make a play in these counties, if they go into 2028 with Andy Bashir, someone who does kind of win a lot, you go look at some of those eastern, northeast Kentucky counties, you might see kind of some of these tides change. So if say someone like Bashir can really kind of maintain that coalition and add on a lot of this rural working class, you're going to see huge swings. I mean, he could run away with it, could get 30 or 330 plus electoral votes. The other big takeaway that I would say, and this just came in, is that, um, you know, uh, the Supreme Court is looking at Texas keeping their state map. So for those who don't know, is I think District 7 is either District 7 or the one right next to it. I think it's 4 or 8. Um, that district used to just be basically Nashville. It used to be a short, Democratic area right around Nashville, and then they essentially cracked it, right? So they essentially said, "Hey, you got all these people going over here to District 7, and then these coming over here to those other districts." And so essentially, Tennessee got rid of a Democratic seat in the state. So what's interesting about that is that if Texas is allowed to use the same 2026 maps, it was shown that, hey, a lot of these districts are going to be more swingy and they're going to be more vulnerable if you see a +4, +5 shift towards the Democrats, like I maybe expect. And if things get worse, like, to be honest, like I'd expect for Republicans, you could start seeing a lot of these districts in Texas kind of start swinging more towards the Democrats. And it could actually end up biting Republicans in the ass. So something to look out for. Obviously, there's still a lot of litigations and stuff like that that are going on. But I'd be concerned. I posted also on Twitter that, Republicans are on notice. There's a lot of things that they've done that's not super great. You've got an energized Democratic Party. And with some of this gerrymandering stuff, you're kind of opening yourself up to vulnerabilities, especially in places maybe like North Carolina and others, to where if Democrats can get good candidates for some of these areas, they can run on affordability, and Republicans can't really do anything. They really haven't done anything since, back in April. you're gonna see. I can really see maybe like 240 uh, House majority for Hakeem. So definitely take a look at that. Keep an eye out. And then the big thing is, people who are watching this channel, anyone out there, the data's out there. You guys can look at it. You guys can go form your own opinions. You can look at this and see, hey, maybe this, maybe that, all this other kind of stuff. A lot of the tactics that Republicans use was old tactics. They're not really kind of staying up to date with this. So, you guys can go out there, you can look at it, you can see this stuff, and ultimately, make your own opinions and, really kind of what this channel is here to do is just kind of give you our opinions and then kind of show you, hey, here's what people who are in this space and who are, following this stuff regularly, here's what we're seeing, here's what we're thinking, here's what we're looking forward to. So, you guys are smart enough, make your own decisions, take a look at this and really kind of come get up to your own conclusions. Is this a turnout? Is this a party, a candidate issue? Is this, I don't know, is this Democrats are, persuading voters? Whatever it is, definitely like and comment that down below and let me know what you think. But yeah, so I appreciate everyone hopping on, like and subscribe if you like what we're doing, and yeah, let me know if you've got any ideas for the next video. Have a good one.